What is up, everyone? Ryan here with Sailing Viridian, episode number 2. So as I might have mentioned in episode number 1, some of the electrical outlets in my boat are non-functional. So today I've decided to go around the entire boat, try to troubleshoot some of the electrical infrastructure, see what the root source is, and I figured, might as well videotape this, make it episode number 2. So today I'm going to go ahead and replace all 3 outlets and make sure that everything's functional when it comes to the electrical system on the boat. Okay, so first off, let me apologize for the Michael Jackson in the background. The marina's hosting a party right now, so we got a little bit of MJ going. But I showed the circuit breaker in the first episode, so you can see it's got 2 20-amp breakers, and they just feed in from the dock power there. So I already went ahead and actually troubleshooted the actual receptacle itself, and the receptacle works just fine. So in order to test ensure that the voltage is actually coming through the breaker, I have here basically a voltage tester, so it can detect if there's AC voltage within a certain proximity. And it's covered in plastic, so the metal doesn't actually touch anything. It just turns red if it senses power. So you can see as I get it close to the hot there, coming in, the black's hot, the white is neutral, and the just straight copper is ground. So you always want to test the black, and you can see it's beeping and it's red. It means getting voltage on that breaker. That one's coming in as well. Now I'm going to test it down here, and you can see that there's no power passing through the breaker because the breakers are in the off position. But if I turn this top one on, now you can see it's on down there. And same thing for the left one. So this means that the electrical problem is not with the marine power receptacle, and it's also not with the circuit breakers. So that leaves one culprit left: the AC outlet. So here I have the same voltage tester, and you can actually fit it inside the openings, and you can see that even with all the breakers flipped and on, this outlet does not work. Alright, so now that we've narrowed down the electrical problem to the actual outlets, we determined that the marine receptacle was working fine, the circuit breakers themselves were working fine. Now that means that we have to go ahead and replace the 3 outlets on this boat. So what do you need to replace an outlet? I already showed you guys this tool. This is that voltage tester to see if there's live current or live voltage on a wire. This is definitely useful. I also have here a voltmeter. This is also useful as well if you want to measure the actual voltage, or if you have a lot of different wires and you want to test certain ones, because this kind of just goes off in proximity. But if you want to test actual wires, you can use the 2 leads here. You have a positive and a negative, and you can test any wires you want to. It also tests DC voltage as well as resistance, current, and of course AC voltage. You'll also need an outlet. This is one of the higher end outlets that has 2 USB chargers on it as well. I believe it's 3.6 amps total that come out of the USB chargers, which is good, more than just kind of the standard 1 amp ones. This outlet was about $20 from Home Depot, but you can also get just one of the cheap P outlets. I have another one here. This one's a standard 15 amp, just 3-prong adapter, and this one was around like $3. So you're paying an extra 17 or so for the 2 USB ports. So I'm not going to do every single outlet with USB ports. It's kind of excessive, so I just decided to do one. You also need a faceplate if you want to make it look nice. This was around 80 cents, I believe. And this faceplate works with both this outlet and this outlet. I also recommend one of these. This is an outlet tester, so it'll tell you whether or not you have open ground, open neutral, open hot, hot and ground reversed, hot and neutral reversed, or the two orange lights down here in the bottom will light up if you have it properly wired. So I can actually go ahead and show you guys this one being used. So, you know, this outlet, you can see nothing happens, which means that the outlet is non-functional. So there's no power at all going to it, even though I have the breakers turned on. And of course, always turn off the breakers when you're working on wiring. But right now they're on, just so I could show that. You also might want some wire strippers or wire cutters if you have to trim any of the wires after you open up the outlet. So that's pretty much it when it comes to tools. Oh, and you also need a screwdriver, which I have laying down here on the ground. Must have rolled away. There's some big boats going by, so it's creating a lot of wake here. But you also need a screwdriver. You can use either, some are regular, some are Phillips. I believe these are nice. They have Phillips, which is preferable compared to regular. All right, time for a quick pause. On a real serious note, guys, you know, make sure that you either have turned off your circuit breakers or you have disconnected the dock power from your boat. You know, we are playing around with 120 volts AC here, which can kill you, especially if your hands are damp or moist, you know, from sweat or from water. So definitely make sure that your breakers are off. And just to double check, make sure you use that voltage tester or your voltmeter to actually test the wires on the back of the outlet to ensure that the leads are not hot before you go ahead and actually unscrew them. All right, I'm wedged over here in the corner, but as I mentioned, I went ahead and made sure that the breakers are turned off, and I also have my trusty voltage tester here, you know, just to have an extra layer of security. So I'm gonna go ahead and test these out. You can see that the outlet itself is not live, and then also you can reach around to the screws on the side. This one already has the faceplate taken off, and I took that off so I could, you know, access the screws on the side. You can get this close enough to the screw terminals. Yep, so you can see that this outlet is not live, therefore it's safe to go ahead and start taking it out. There are generally two screws that hold in the outlet, one on top, one on the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew those right now. Well, you can see I initially had some trouble with the top one, and you can see here the screws are completely rusted and corroded. So I'm really having some difficulty getting that top one out. The bottom one came out, but with quite a bit of effort. So I have to see if I can actually get this top one out or if I'm gonna have to rip it out with some pliers. So you can see that the ripping went pretty successfully. I got some spider webs on the back of it, but it came out. The screw itself still up there stuck, but the plate I was able to bend and it kind of just popped off the screw. So you can see on the back of the outlet receptacle, you have your white, which is your neutral. You have your just bare copper, which is your ground, and then you also have your black, which is your hot. So that's, you know, considered the hot one. So what I'm gonna do, this receptacle actually has some screwdriver slots. So you stick your screwdriver in those slots and then the wires pop out. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop those, both the hot and the neutral out, and then also unscrew the screw for the ground. So here we have the bare wires. They're a little long for my liking compared to where the end of the rubber is. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually trim these a little bit, but I went and took the USB outlet out of the box, and you can see that there isn't a whole lot of room in this kind of little receptacle housing compared to how deep this thing goes back. So looking at it, I think what I'm gonna have to do is kind of pull the wire down through that opening at the bottom as I install the outlet, because there's no way this thing's gonna fit with all these wires bunched up in the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually get these screwed on first. So Looking at the screws, you can see one's brass colored, one's silver, and then one's green down here in the bottom. The green one's always ground, so that's just our bare copper wire. The silver one is neutral, so that's going to be our white wire. And then the brass colored one is our hot, which is going to be the black one. All right, so the wires are secured on the outlet receptacle, and I have my trusty tester here, and the breaker has been flipped. It is live. I don't recommend testing it this way because you might, touch the screws on the back, but I'm experienced. So let me see if I can get an angle here where you guys can see as well. Go ahead, plug it in, and you can see that the, came out a little bit. You can see that the two orange lights down there signify that it is the correct wiring. So that means this is working, and I'm gonna go ahead now and stuff it in there and feed that wire through like I mentioned, so that the actual outlet itself, the receptacle kind of fits in there. And there it is. So you can tell it's a little bit up off the surface. Part of that is due to the fact that the rear portion of this receptacle is pretty bulky because of the USB chargers. The other portion is because of that screw that was up here that I couldn't remove. So it does wiggle around a little bit. I think what I'm gonna do is, once I pick up some from the store, I think I'm gonna take off this faceplate and just get some strong, high quality adhesive just to adhere the metal plate on the back of this receptacle to the old screw that's in there. But you can see I got the breaker turned on. Go ahead and plug that in. So you can see everything's wired correctly. Same thing, it's not plugged in all the way. Same thing up top. You have to make sure you push this in all the way or it's not going to read properly. So yeah, just make sure you do that, because you see if it's in kind of a little bit, only one light comes up, but if you really push it in, then all two. And then the USB ports work. I just tested those as well. So overall, I'd say we have succeeded in this installation. Now it's just time for the other three. Just kidding. I'm not going to be showing you guys how to install 3 of the identical outlets. I think you can take that one and apply it to the rest. I have gone ahead and actually started working on this one down here in between filming, since it is getting dark, and I'm trying to get it done as soon as possible. So that one's in, the faceplate's not on it yet. I tested it, everything's good. That one went in super smooth because it's one of the slim receptacles, super piece of cake. That was the really rusty one, if you remember from episode 1. That one was just pretty dirty, but surprisingly came out easy. There's the other one I did, and then I still have to do this one before the sun sets. So I'm gonna go ahead, flip the breakers, and get to that one. But before I do that, I'd just like to thank you all for tuning in to episode number 2 of Sailing Viridian. I hope it was at least enjoyable or potentially educational if you're looking up how to install electrical outlets in your boat. For episodes 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., most likely I'm going to purchase a deep cycle lead acid battery, get that hooked up, get this crummy electrical panel ripped out, put in a nicer, newer one, and then kind of complete the electrical infrastructure for the most part. And I do want to get at least one 100-watt solar panel. So once again, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, see ya.